Just changing direction now. Last week, after the National Cabinet video conferencing meeting on domestic violence, the Australian government locked on to holding a pilot scheme trialling proof of age for access to online pornographic sites. Age verification, as it's called, can come in several different forms, and various governments around the world have tried alternative methods in recent years. Ian Corby is from the UK-based Aged Verification Providers Association. We asked him to explain exactly how these things work. Ian Corby, thank you for joining us on Afternoon Briefing. Now, I imagine you'd be well aware by now that the Australian government is moving to pilot an age verification scheme for some online porn, but I think it's fair to say not many Australians know what system or even how it will work. There are probably several technologies that your members offer and you are familiar with, but is it possible, Ian, to say that there's a gold standard for age verification that excludes young people, protects privacy and actually works? Does such a thing exist?
Yes, absolutely. So the essence of age verification is proving your age online without disclosing your identity. And so everything about our industry is about anonymity. Now, you can prove your age in a number of ways. You can either use the traditional age verification, where you might use your, a driving license or a passport, or you can use the more modern techniques of age estimation, which is it's normally from a sort of facial image, a selfie, where we can establish your age within about a year and a half of your actual age, on average. And either of these methods allow us to know whether you're an adult or a child in a way that doesn't actually disclose who you are. It merely tells these websites that you're old enough to access them.
Okay, so if we look at the first of those models you summarised there for us, Ian, just describe what the actual end user experience is. What do they have to produce, or what might they have to enter each and every time they seek to access a site? And we are talking primarily here about pornography sites.
Yes, well, we're trying to avoid you having to do it each and every time. So one of the things that we've been working on is interoperable age assurance. So having proven your age once to one website, you would not then need to repeat that process when trying to access other sites. Now, to give you an example, if I had, say, my driver's license and I wanted to prove my age with that, I might need to take an image of that, using the camera on my phone perhaps, or the webcam that I'm talking to you on now, and then take a selfie image so that we can double check that the person who's showing us that ID is the actual owner of that ID. And then we extract the date of birth from the identity, and then we know how old you are. We then delete all that personal information, so we don't remember or retain any personal data. And that's really critical, because all we need to know is that you, the user, is an adult. And then we tell the adult websites yes or no when they ask the question, are you over 18 or not?
Okay, so what compels the deletion? Is that law? Is that just a contractual undertaking that your providers would enter into? How can we be assured of that? Because quite obviously, me scanning in my passport would, to my mind, be a huge risk to me.
Yes, I mean, bear in mind that we use our faces to open our phones. We are handing data to our bank or our healthcare provider all the time. So all of these organisations are required, generally under law, to treat your data with some degree of caution. We grew up in Europe, where we have the General Data Protection Regulations, GDPR. There's a similar regime in Australia, obviously, but we would be required to comply with that sort of data protection law. And part of that is about only using data in the way that you've said that you're going to use it. However, we understand this is a very sensitive area, and it may be that people prefer to use a solution where everything happens on your mobile phone. and therefore you don't share any data at all. So it is now possible to do that proofing process, either showing your ID to your phone or taking a selfie and estimating your age. It is possible to do all of that entirely on your phone, so no personal data ever leaves your own hand.
Okay, so just elaborate then on the age estimation process, which you touched on just then, but also at the beginning of our conversation. Ian, how reliable is that proving to be?
Well, if I take a look at you, I would guess you're probably over 18. And the reason I can do that is because I would suspect you're at least over 23.
Keep going, yeah,
So,
fair guess.
what we would, if we want to be confident in the outcome of a facial age estimation, we won't be checking that you just look over 18. We'll add a few years. And so it only really works for people who are, say, over 23 and above, because then we know statistically, based on how, just how clever this AI technology is, that there's a very, very, very tiny chance that you're actually under 18. And to be honest, no system is perfect. And let's keep in mind, what we're trying to do with this technology is to keep most children away from most pornography most of the time. Now, we can create a system that keeps all children away from all pornography all of the time, but it would be incredibly invasive and disruptive to adults who arguably should be able to exercise some freedom in accessing the sites they want to do. So we don't try to be 100% perfect in everything we do. And therefore, an age estimation, which we know will, for example, give 99.7% accuracy, I think most regulators, including, for example, your e-safety commissioner, Julian Grant, would be pretty happy with a solution that keeps 99.7% of under 18-year-olds off pornography. And keep in mind that most of the errors will be 17-year-olds, not 7-year-olds. So
yeah, exactly.
It's a pretty good system.
Yeah, that makes sense when you couch it like that. There's only a single threshold test that you're needing to pass here, and that is around the 18-year age bracket.
Yeah, I mean, if you've just turned 18, then you probably need to do an age verification and find some ID to prove that, yesterday was your birthday. But for the vast majority of adults, age estimation would be fine.
All right. Now, I know you and your members, Ian, have been talking to states, to governments more generally around the world. Have any tried and abandoned these technologies in recent times? Noting again that Australia is only going to pilot it. I'm just wondering about the disconnection rate on these things.
Well, I have to say, our good friend Boris Johnson, in fact, within the next 12 months, it will become law in the UK. There's lots of detailed regulation now being published by our regulator here. I was actually in Australia myself back in November on a UK-sponsored trade mission, and I met with both the Communications Minister, Michelle Rowland, and her opposite number, David Coleman. Really positive conversation with both about the opportunities here. And I don't want to blow our own trumpet too much, but I do think we persuaded them both that this was something which is utterly feasible, at least to something that should be tried. And let's keep in mind, the only thing the government in Australia is suggesting right now is a pilot. And frankly, that's a pretty sensible proposition.
Yeah, well, you've certainly given some form and shape to our understanding of it today in Corby as we move into and through the pilot